Hey there, this is Women on the Brink. I'm your host, Chris Jeffrey, a registered acupuncturist and wellness advisor with a passion for helping women live happier and more balanced lives. When I'm away from work, I'm usually outside in nature, either walking the seawall or I'm hiking in the mountains. And like many of you, my life has been filled with moments of hardship, some that I thought I couldn't overcome and really left me questioning my own strength. But through these challenges, I discovered resilience, courage, and a renewed sense of purpose. So I'm here to share not just my journey, but the lessons I've learned, and to remind you that no matter what obstacles come your way, there's always a path forward. And just to let you know, this podcast is not prescriptive, it's an offering. So please take what resonates with you and leave the rest. Welcome back to Women on the Brink. And today we're going to be talking about one of those emotions that can feel heavy enough to anchor you to the past. And that is regret. That endless loop of, what if I had chosen differently? What if I hadn't said that? What if I'd been braver? What if, what if, what if? Regret has a very unique energy. It doesn't just make you sad, it can really make you feel stuck sometimes. And if we're not careful, it can keep us living in a version of the past instead of stepping into who we are now. So let's explore that energy of regret. Research and surveys over the years have shown some consistent themes around women's biggest regrets, and they tend to fall into a few key areas. And what I realized in doing this episode is that I can identify with all 8 of them to some degree. So the first one is not living authentically sooner. So, the common regret here is that I wish I had trusted myself earlier instead of living for others' expectations. Women report staying in roles and relationships or patterns too long because of either fear or duty or social conditioning. And I know that I did this for sure, sometimes without even realizing it. So, one real life example of this is an Australian woman named Bronnie Ware, who was a palliative care nurse. And she wrote the book called The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. So, in her own story, not just the stories of her patients, she admitted that one of her deepest regrets was not living authentically sooner. So, for years, she worked in jobs and took on relationships that didn't fit, and really suppressing her creative calling to be a writer and a musician because she was afraid of judgment and disappointing others. And it wasn't until she began caring for people at the end of their lives and heard over and over again their regret about not being true to themselves that she made a radical shift. She walked away from her old life and embraced her writing and began living the way she truly wanted. So her experience kind of echoes the exact regret that so many women carry. I wish I had been braver in being myself earlier instead of living for everyone else's expectations. And the second one is silencing our voice. So the common regret here is I wish I had spoken up for myself, for what I needed, for what I believed in. This shows up in relationships and careers and even in the small daily interactions. So remember Monica Lewinsky? I did not have sex with that woman. So for years after the Clinton scandal, she stayed almost completely silent because every time she tried to speak, she was ridiculed or torn apart. And she said in interviews that the public shaming made her feel she had no right to her own voice or story. And it wasn't until decades later, through her TED Talk, The Price of Shame, that she finally reclaimed it. And she talked openly about how her silence was driven by fear and survival, and also by how liberating it was to speak her truth on her own terms. And the third one, prioritizing everyone else over ourselves. So the common regret here is, I wish I had cared for myself instead of burning out taking care of everyone else. So many women look back and realize they put their own dreams and well-being last for years. And I mean, this really isn't our fault, in my opinion, if we're moms. That is the responsibility, putting our kids before ourselves. But if we're putting partners and jobs and just our own expectations of how we're supposed to be above really prioritizing what it is we need, yeah. So Clara Hughes, she's a Canadian Olympic athlete who is known for winning medals in both the Summer and Winter Games. And during the height of her career, she's openly shared that she prioritized everyone else, her coaches, her team, her country's expectations over her own mental health. So she pushed herself to perform while silently battling depression and believed that she had to keep giving everything to others and live up to what other people needed from her. And it wasn't until after retiring and speaking publicly through the Bell Let's Talk campaign that she acknowledged how much she had sacrificed her own well being to meet those external demands. And you know what? I really believe that as a female leader and mentor, it's my duty to instill in women that prioritizing others over yourself will only cause huge resentment and regret down the road. Number 4, not taking more risks. So the common regret here is I wish I had been braver, that I had traveled more, changed my careers, started the thing I always dreamed about. Fear of failure or judgment often keeps women in safer, familiar patterns. We talk a lot about this on Women on the Brink, mainly about, being on the brink of a hardship or a challenge. But once we jump those hurdles, we have the option of becoming on the brink of something we dreamed of. And a great example of this is Elizabeth Gilbert, the author of Eat, Pray, Love. So before her breakthrough book, she spent years just playing it safe, writing what she thought would sell, staying in a marriage and a lifestyle that looked right, and ignoring the quiet voice telling her she was living small. So in interviews, she said one of her biggest regrets was not taking more risks earlier, not just in leaving her marriage, but in trusting her creative work and her personal truths sooner. And it wasn't until she finally risked everything, her comfort, her reputation, her stability, to follow her own path, that her life actually opened up. And her story just reflects what so many women feel, staying in the safe, in the acceptable lane for too long, and later realizing that the bigger risk was never fully claiming our own lives. Number 5, staying too long in the wrong relationship or leaving too late. So the common regret is, I knew it wasn't right, but I stayed because I didn't want to hurt anyone or be alone. Or the opposite, I left without saying what I really needed and wonder if it could have been different. How many of us have overstayed in a relationship where there was no flow and no sync? Our interests, our values were so different from our partners, or we weren't growing. So Tina Turner is a more obvious example of this. I mean, she stayed in a marriage and a professional partnership with Ike Turner despite enduring so much abuse and fear and control. And later, she shared in her autobiography and in interviews that she stayed far longer than she should have because she felt trapped, financially, emotionally, and by the expectations of the public. Well, duh, it was the 1960s, and how many women had rights back then? So when she finally left, she said one of her only regrets was not leaving sooner and reclaiming her life earlier. And her story has become a powerful symbol of how women can lose themselves in unhealthy relationships and the courage it really takes to finally walk away and start over. God, Tina's my hero. I just love her. Number 6, neglecting their passions or education. So the common regret is, I wish I had gone back to school, kept creating, or followed my curiosity. So many women regret shelving their intellectual or creative needs for a someday that might never come. So years ago, I chose marketing over anthropology because I was afraid of not making enough money. And that was really influenced by my dad's concern about, financial security. And at the time, I thought it was a practical choice, but it really left me unfulfilled. And now, I no longer see it as a regret. I've realized my passion for anthropology hasn't faded, it's only grown. So during my quiet lull this summer, I made the decision to return to school next year and finish my degree. And it feels like this full circle moment where I'm finally prioritizing what truly lights me up. And I'm excited to embrace this next chapter. In fact, I was just at my old university getting my transcripts this past week, and I was so excited to be on a university campus again. Big green light for me. Number 7, worrying too much about our appearance. So the common regret is I spent years hating my body instead of enjoying my life. And this one comes up especially in older women who are reflecting back. So Dove's Real Beauty campaign spokesperson is Cynthia Nixon, and she's best known for her role in Sex and the City. And she spoke openly about how she spent so many years obsessing over her appearance, particularly with the pressures of Hollywood's, beauty standards. And she said that she constantly focused on how she looked, and that kept her from embracing her true self, and that she regretted wasting so much energy on this concern. And, later on, she became more comfortable with aging and with her body. And so she started advocating for self-acceptance and authenticity over external validation. And she said that the regret she felt was not about the physical changes, but about how much mental space she gave to something that wasn't as important as she once thought. So the story really mirrors the experiences of many of us women who often regret spending so much time and energy or money on appearance at the expense of, our true self-worth and our personal happiness. And the last one, number 8, not spending more time with loved ones. So the common regret here is, I wish I had slowed down and savored more moments with the people I love. So we all know Maya Angelou, the well-known author. In her later years, she expressed deep regret about not spending enough time with her family, particularly during her younger years when she was super focused on her writing and career. And she had to balance being a mother and a writer and a public figure. And in doing so, she missed opportunities to nurture her relationships. And she really openly reflected on how she wished she had been more present for her loved ones because the years just passed too quickly, as we all know. And, let's face it, she accomplished many, many incredible things, but her biggest regret was not spending that time with her family and sharing meals and stories and quiet moments, things that you just can't get back, right? And I'm sure this one really resonates with so many women who look back on their busy lives and wish they had prioritized more connection over achievement. So how do we keep regret from holding us down? So the first thing is just to acknowledge it without judgment and just say, yeah, I wish I had done that differently, and just name the regret. Kind of takes away the shame of trying to hide it. And then extract the lesson, like, what is this regret showing me about what I need or value? And that turns it from a weight into more of a compass. And then just redirect the energy. Take one small action that now aligns with what the regret has taught you. If you regret not speaking up, choose one conversation to use your voice. And for me, the regret is still there. I wish I had completed the degree. Okay, what's stopping you? Go and get it, Chris. And then finally, just close the loop. Create a ritual or write the regret down and thank it for its wisdom. And then just let it go, release it, burn it, bury it, or just simply say, I no longer carry this weight. I carry the lesson. So I hope that helps. And if you're on the brink and feeling the pull of regret, remember, you're not meant to drag the past behind you like a bag of stones. Regret is only heavy when we're holding on to the what if. And when you turn it into what now, it becomes movement instead of an anchor. So in closing, just ask yourself, what is this regret really trying to teach me? And then instead of living in that old moment, take one small step today to honor the woman you're becoming. Thanks for joining. And I want you to know that this isn't just a podcast. This is a movement. So share this information with your friends and let's go, ladies.